So our activity goes as observe the pictures below and answer the questions that follow. Among the questions include the following. As you looked at the pictures, what do you see in each of the pictures above? I will take you back to the pictures and respond to Roman 1, which says, what are we seeing in each of the pictures above? Look at picture A, B, C, D, and E, then come up with ideas of what each picture is all about. What each picture is all about. Yes, Siri.
Picture A. A man is putting off fire using a fire extinguisher.
We are putting off fire using a fire extinguisher. That's good. Pretty.
Two men are putting off fire using a fire extinguisher.
We are using a fire extinguisher in picture A and
C.
Picture A and C, we are seeing off the action of putting off fire using a fire extinguisher. Who is giving us what is seen in picture B? We are rating members, okay? So we are responding to question to Roman 1. Picture A and C, men are putting off fire using a fire extinguisher. Men are putting off fire using a fire extinguisher. Can we move on to, we are left with 3 pictures now, B, D, and E. What are we seeing in picture B? Joel?
Picture of a fire extinguisher.
We are just seeing a picture of a fire extinguisher. Good. So we are writing picture B shows a fire extinguisher. Picture B shows a fire extinguisher. Jane Patience, you are responding to picture D. Jane Patience.
Picture D, I'm seeing a fire blanket.
You are seeing a fire blanket in picture D. That's good. Picture D shows a fire blanket. Picture D shows a fire blanket. And then lastly, picture E. Picture E. I'm seeing Pretty. Your hand is up already.
I can see the tools used found in a first aid box.
Very, very good. That's brilliant of you. Picture E shows tools. Tools found in the first aid box. Now, can we go ahead to mention some of the tools found in the first aid box? And how best are you going to use them? Because we are under safety in case of an accident and you see a fire, you see a first aid box how are you going to go ahead to use it? So who can tell us some of the uses of the items found in the first aid box? I'm beginning with Joel.
Cotton wool.
Cotton wool. And how best are we going to use cotton wool?
To clean the blood.
In case of bleeding, you're going to use cotton wool to clean off blood. That's good. John?
A bandage.
See a bandage.
A bandage is used for covering the wound.
Very good. Covering. So in case you land on a first aid box and your friend has gotten an accident involving bleeding, involving wounds, I think we can now access and use the first aid box. Jane Patience, you have a submission.
Methylated spirit for cleaning the wound.
Methylated spirit, which works as a sterilizer, okay, to sterilize the wound, to kill off all the pathogens which would have entered through that wound, okay? So methylated spirit is a sterilizer. I would like to continue and say that even alcohol, do you know, I think you people have seen that local alcohol people take, colorless, it's colorless, eh? Normally distilled through these drums. Okay. So also alcohol, in chemistry, we are going to call it ethanol, is a sterilizer. So it can be used instead of methylated spirit within the first aid box. So locally, if you don't have methylated spirit, go with alcohol. They serve the same function in being sterilizers. Let's move on to the next question. Of what use is the equipment in pictures B, D, and E? Let's look at the uses. We write that question down. Of what use is the equipment in pictures B, D, and E? So we go back. We are looking at pictures B, D, and E. What are the uses of those equipments we are seeing in picture B, D, and E? Yes, I want members to respond. Your hand is already up. You're giving us the use of the equipment in picture B, Pretty.
A fire extinguisher is used to put off fire.
Is used to put off fire. I think last week we also all watched the news, those breaking news when we had a terror attack in Kampala. And the bomb blast at Parliamentary Avenue, people tried to get all fire extinguishers nearby to put off the fire that had that destroyed somebody's vehicle. So the fire extinguisher, everyone among us should know how to use it, because we see it in very many places. At all petrol stations, there must be fire extinguishers. In all schools, including ours, we must have fire extinguishers at all possible corners, all corners which are easily accessed. So among others, this is going to be a common tool because we expect fire at any one time. So how do you deal with it? Everyone should get to know how to use a fire extinguisher. And that's why we study chemistry, because it teaches us how to handle these different apparatus. I would like to give a chance to members who have not yet discussed anything, but I'm seeing Patience. Patience, your hand is up as the first individual. So I'm going with you, giving us the use of the equipment in picture D.
Picture D is used for covering yourself to prevent you from getting burnt.
So in case of a fire outbreak, and maybe your shirt or the clothes you're putting on have caught fire, the fire blanket will assist you in putting off that fire. So fire blanket, putting off flames on an individual, putting off flames on an individual. Pretty, what is happening? What's the problem?
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes.
Now, what if I say a fire extinguisher is used to put off a big fire?
It's used to put off a big fire. That is also fine. That is also fine. So we've gotten the use for the fire blanket, hopefully. Lastly, I want a respondent on picture E. Somebody giving us the use of the equipment in picture E. Come up with the use of the equipment in picture E. And picture E, we identified it as tools of the first aid box. So what do you think those tools are used for? Benita, I'm seeing you for the first time. I'm going with you to give us a response. Benita?
Picture E is used to keep the tools used for giving first aid.
We are seeing picture E keeps all the first aid box, keeps instruments used to give first aid. Do we have any other version of how we can write the same answer? Joel, you can also submit your point.
Picture E is used to save life.
We use it to immediately save life. Good.
Yes.
That is also a good point. Any other version? You know, we want to exhaust possible answers. So far we've passed 2 answers on the use of the equipment in picture E. Maybe there is somebody else who is, you know, having another version and wants to contribute. Hopefully those 2 answers exhaust all our queries on picture E. Joel, your hand is up again.
Picture is used to reduce pain.
Items in picture E are used to reduce pain in case of injury or in case of physical injury. Let us move on to the third Roman numeral. Which activity is taking place in pictures A and C? Which activity is taking place in picture A and C? Which activity is taking place in picture A and C? Hopefully members are writing these questions plus the answers we generate from the discussion. Okay, so which activity is taking place in picture A and C? I'm taking you back to the pictures. We are there. So let us come up with activities taking place in picture A and C. Which activity is taking place in picture A and C? I'm seeing participants are raising up hands at a faster rate here. I was looking for somebody who was giving us the first response of in this lesson, but whoever is raising up a hand has already contributed. So chance is going to be given to the first member who rose up a hand. Pretty?
Putting off fire.
The activity is putting off fire. Very good. Thank you for the contribution, and we are writing. It is a perfect answer. There is no need of me explaining it any further because it is very evident that whoever is in picture A and C is putting off fire. That's nice of you. Now, apart from the fire extinguisher, when you look at picture A closely, among the two gentlemen, who is more safe when carrying out the activity? Among the two gentlemen, who is more safe when carrying out the activity? Because both of them are putting off fire using a fire extinguisher. Tracy, this is your first time to speak.
It is a man in picture. I mean, the second person.
The second person in green and with dark green with light
black.
Some people are seeing it as black, isn't it? I'm going to try and enlarge this picture for each and every one. Okay. Hopefully now the picture is bigger and we can see what is happening.
Yeah.
So that man with dark green and light green stripes is more safer because he's putting on an attire which is fire resistant. Okay. But this gentleman in a jean is not very safe because he's putting off or he's putting on clothes which can easily catch fire. So as you carry out a particular activity, to maintain safety involves putting on attire that can also safeguard you from danger. So since we've seen that fire is a common accident, we needed to know how to use a fire extinguisher. So our next subheading is how to use a fire extinguisher. Use of a fire extinguisher is summarized in 4 steps. In case you come nearer the fire extinguisher, look at its top. You're going to see what we are calling a lever, and that lever will have a pin. The pin locks up the fire extinguisher. So pulling out the pin unlocks the fire extinguisher. That is step number 1. Then direct your lever to the base of the flame. That is step number 2. Aim at the base of the fire, the base of the flame. Thereafter, go ahead and push or squeeze the lever to release the carbon dioxide. Then after, you're going to sweep the lever side to side to ensure that you exhaust all the fire flames coming off. So let us write the 4 steps to use when we want to use a fire extinguisher. And the video, which is going to highlight on how to use the fire extinguisher, is going to be posted on my YouTube channel. It's where you will be finding it. So make sure you subscribe. It's Smart Science. Even a review of this lesson will be uploaded later on in the day, such that we follow, we watch, and we subscribe onto that channel. As we end the lesson, I will give you the channel name and the channel symbol, such that you can get it easily. Somebody is requesting to be excused here. That is Pretty.
Yeah.
Appeal. We are writing. Okay.
Yes.
We are writing. Even the slide that I have displayed onto your screen, we are writing it. Excuse me for that. So our heading is how to use a fire extinguisher, and we are writing the 4 steps. First step, pull the pin. Second step, aim at the base of the fire. Third step, squeeze the lever. And 4th step, sweep side to side. So we have 4 steps in using the fire extinguisher. On this platform, is there any member who has ever used the fire extinguisher before? A member
Yes,
who has
teacher.
maybe used it or has seen it being used.
Yes.
I'm seeing Pretty saying yes, right? Can you go ahead to tell us which gas is used in fire extinguisher?
Teacher, I don't remember.
Don't remember. Is there any member among the stars who knows the gas used in the fire extinguisher? Tracy, your hand is up first.
Carbon dioxide.
We use carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. I saw I saw a dome. Do we have a dome?
Yeah.
I saw your hand up. I'm giving opportunity to Adon to go ahead and tell us, is that carbon dioxide used in the fire extinguisher in powder form or gaseous form? The carbon dioxide
Powder.
It is in?
In powder form.
It is in powder form. That's good. So is there any reason as to why we are using powdered carbon dioxide instead of gaseous carbon dioxide? Why do you think we use powder instead of carbon dioxide in gaseous form? Is there any member who knows something? Pretty. It seems you have ever used this thing and you have a lot of content on it.
Teacher, I can try.
Go ahead and try.
Because carbon dioxide is a gas in the air, and when the fire is there, it cannot reduce it.
So in other words, we are saying carbon dioxide does not support burning, isn't it? That's why we are using carbon dioxide in fire extinguishers, because carbon dioxide does not support burning. We are using carbon dioxide in powder form. Why? This will take us to states of matter. Am I clear? This will take us to states of matter where we have solid, gas, and liquid. Okay? Now I'm comparing gas to solid. Which of the two can easily move? If you compare a solid and a gas, which one will easily move?
A gas.
A gas will easily move away from the point of release, isn't it? Now, if we want to stop fire, we are using solid carbon dioxide. Why? Because it does not easily move. It will easily remove or put off the flames. Okay? You can easily use dust to put off fire than your air blow from the mouth, because dust will not move. It will sit on the base of the flame and stops the flames from coming off the fire. So that's why we are using powdered carbon dioxide in fire extinguishers, because powdered carbon dioxide is a solid and does not easily move away from the base of the fire. It is a solid and cannot easily move away from the base of the fire. So when I talk about a particular concept, try to look at other possible questions. I may not exhaust all the questions, but at least through the discussion we are having, I will point at very many questions which can come on a particular concept. Okay? Now this takes us to our third activity, the second of the day. The second activity of the day. And we are writing We're writing. We are writing. In case you have a fire outbreak at home, or maybe a school lab, explain how you would deal with that fire outbreak. And as you are explaining how you want to deal with that fire outbreak, please write a set of guidelines to be followed. What are you going to begin with to put off that fire? Maybe before people write, we can try to break this down, and you give us an insight on which steps do you think you can follow before you put off the fire. We can try to discuss this question here, such that by the time you go and write, you know what to write, and you know the sequence of steps you have to follow to come up with such an idea. So in case you have a fire outbreak at home, Pretty, how are you going to deal with it?
Excuse me, sir.
Very common. Yes, excuse.
When to deal with a fire outbreak, when you have an extinguisher or without a fire extinguisher?
We've not specified here. Okay?
Okay.
So in case you have it, you maybe you don't have it, you get it. So use all alternatives, possible alternatives to deal with fire at home or at school. If you are at home, you may not have a fire extinguisher, but at school, a fire extinguisher is always available. This is a law in all schools. Fire extinguishers must be there. Okay? So it will depend on how you're going to deal with it at home and how you're dealing with it at school. At school, I expect you to use a fire extinguisher. At home, you can use anything which can be obtained from our local environment. Okay? So at home, which items can you use? In case you don't have a fire extinguisher, what can you use to put off fire? Appeal? Appeal?
Sand.
Sand? If not sand, Trevor? John Trevor?
I was going to say that very answer.
Okay. Joel?
Water.
Joel? You can
By
use,
using water. Water.
you can use water if the fire is not so big, okay? In case of home usage. But to improve this one, water can be, we can bombard it with carbon dioxide. Okay, so those fire extinguishing cars you see, they have carbonated water impregnated with carbon dioxide. Okay, as we are yet to see in the future. Pretty, instead of sand, water, we can use
Teacher, at my former school, they told us you cannot use water alone.
Yeah, water has to be
Because
carbonated, okay? So I'm putting the information in a chart, okay? So it is water enriched with carbon dioxide, okay? So far we have two. We have sand, we have water enriched with carbon dioxide. Which other item instead of those two? Can we also use soil dust
Yes.
as something that can put off fire? Excuse me. So, Samantha, finally you say something here that is good. However, I would like to hear your voice, maybe. Alinda, you're saying no on soil dust?
Yes,
Why?
because it can be easily moved by wind.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Normally, if the wind is so strong, even water can be moved by wind. Okay?
What?
Have you read about something called humidity?
Yes.
If I say humidity, what do I mean? I mean the level of water in the atmosphere, isn't it?
Yes.
teacher.
So probably I'm correct if I say wind can move water, right?
Yes.
So I want you to try this out. Get some papers if you have them. The papers you don't want, light them using a matchbox, collect soil dust, and put on those papers. Thereafter, you will tell me whether the dust can put off fire or not. Okay? So among the three items we've suggested, that is sand, soil dust, and water enriched with carbon dioxide. You are to select one which you're going to use at home. Am I clear? Then at school, you are to use a fire extinguisher. In those two areas, write procedures you are going to use to put off that fire. For example, if I'm to use a fire extinguisher, okay, which set of guidelines am I going to follow? Am I clear? Maybe I will put on a fire resistant fabric or cloth, okay? I pick my fire extinguisher, pull out the pin, direct the nozzle to the base of the flame, then squeeze the lever to allow release of carbon dioxide, okay, to the base of the flame. Then lastly, I swipe side by side to ensure that the flames are put off. I want you to write that sequence of procedures you're going to follow when you want to put off a certain fire. And that one, members will have to respond to it. I will only assist you on that at school, then we're going to write that at home, okay? I'm assisting on how to put off fire at school because currently you are not at school, but you are currently at home and you must write how to put off fire at home. So we are going to use our whiteboard. We are going to use our whiteboard to ensure that we can come up with ideas of how to put off fire at school. Like I said, we've started trying out things. That's why the chapter we are in is called experimental chemistry. So I'm going to assist you with guidelines to follow when putting off fire at school. I'm setting up myself here a while, just some 3 minutes. I'm setting up my graphics tab here. So at your school, at our level of Africa, SS Mukono, how can we put off fire when we are in the school lab? Okay, I expect you to follow the following steps such that your mission becomes successful. Step number 1, I expect you to put on fire resistant attire. And putting on fire resistant attire prevents you from getting burnt. Yeah, this one at school, definitely you are going to use the fire extinguisher. So put on fire resistant attire to prevent you from getting burnt. Step number 2, you have to get hold of a fire extinguisher. Get hold of a fire extinguisher. And if you get your fire extinguisher, you have to immediately pull out the pin. So get hold of a fire extinguisher. And pull the pin immediately. Hopefully members are writing. And pull the pin immediately. So after that, you're going to direct the outlet at the base of the flame. Then step 4, squeeze the lever. Release. The powdered carbon dioxide. Onto the base of the flame. Step number 5. Swipe the carbon dioxide outlet. Swipe the carbon dioxide outlet. side by side. To ensure that all flames are put off. And lastly, since they told us to explain, we are saying carbon dioxide is used. Because it doesn't support burning. So that's how we are going to deal with a fire outbreak at school. I expect you to follow those guidelines and you deal with it. So it's going to be upon you to come up with guidelines to deal with, to ensure that you put off fire if it is at home. The items you're going to use will depend on your choice, but at least we've seen things we can use to put off fire when at home. You notify me when you are done with writing the steps you considered.
Done.
Hopefully, most of us are done.
Yeah, done.
Finished.
I appreciate the fact
Over.
that we have quite a number of individuals in our lesson. Okay. And we accommodate all attributes. That's nice. So we come to summarize today's discussion by joining two lessons in one. Our very first lesson in chapter 2 and today's lesson, we've seen that in laboratory there are guidelines we have to follow. However, these guidelines were set because of the common accidents we used to get when learners come to the lab. So to avoid these accidents, like we've seen, accidents of fire, accidents of, glassware cutting people, accidents like scalds and burns, among others, we found it right to ensure that we put regulations, rules and regulations to avoid such accidents. And among them include the following. No one is expected to run or play when we are in the lab. No one is expected to wear loose attire like the other girl who put a sweater around the waist. That sweater managed to pull some careless, some hot water that burnt her skin seriously. So to prevent such scenarios, the attire you put on must not be loose. Not all careless liquids you find in the lab that are going to be water. So even other dangerous liquids can be colorless. So when we are in the lab, I don't expect you to eat or drink anything, because you might end up taking an acid thinking that it is water. Any experiment that should be done must be under close supervision of the teacher or lab technician. In case of any accident, you have to immediately report it to the lab technician or the teacher. In the lab, we normally use apparatus we call Bunsen burners to give us heat. So their flames come from gas. So in case you're not using any particular flame, you must put it off to avoid gas leakage, because that one can lead to explosion of the entire lab. In case of any chemical that has spilled on your skin, you have to immediately wash it off using a lot of water. That's why we have numerous sinks in the lab. In case of anything, you have to deal with it faster. Then the labels put on containers must be read carefully to avoid mixing wrong chemicals, to avoid touching dangerous chemicals maybe. So those are some of the main, all the important rules and regulations we need to know. We have suggested some of them. That shows that my class is very brilliant, because many of these rules and regulations had been suggested in our first lesson. So to sum it all, in this second lesson, we've tried to display some of those rules and regulations, such that by the time you come to school, you will be able to enter the lab immediately, and you will be knowing the rules and regulations set for proper lab usage. Some of the labels are going to come in form of signs, and the common signs in the lab are going to be displayed in our very last slide of this lesson. And I will be requesting members to go ahead and identify the meanings of some of these signs. Later on, the PDF of this lesson is going to be shared, but again, a review of the lesson can be found on the YouTube channel, such that you don't miss out on anything. Lastly, as we plan to conclude, I told you some of the symbols or some of the labels in our lab are going to come in form of signs, in form of symbols. We have 6 symbols there, labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And your role is to identify what those symbols mean. What those symbols mean. I will sample a few members here to give me what symbol 1 means. I will sample a few members. What do you think symbol 1 means? Gerard, this is your first time to contribute.
Danger.
It means danger. So any chemical labeled with that symbol, it means that, my dear, don't touch. Okay? It is danger ahead. Anybody else who knows the meaning of any other symbol apart from symbol 1? Because we've at least seen what symbol 1 means. Joel.
Symbol number 2, it means it's highly flammable.
It is highly flammable. Very, very nice. So chemicals which are labeled with such a symbol, it means please don't bring fire nearer. Okay? Sometimes such chemicals can easily catch fire even when you put water there. Some of these chemicals can easily catch fire the moment you open them and they come into contact with oxygen. So the chemicals which are labeled with the symbol number 2 are highly flammable. Highly flammable. The rest of the symbols, you are going to go ahead and identify them. After identifying, I expect you to write in your chemistry notebooks, and shall be discussing the work thoroughly. I thank you for attending today's discussion, and I urge you to go ahead and subscribe on my YouTube channel, which is Smart Science. Its symbol or its label is the structure of DNA. That's the peak. I wish you a nice day, and thank you for attending.
Bye.
Bye, bye, everyone.